cover story of the Nature magazine, one of the world's most read and most prestigious academic journals, reads, "Turning up the heat, superconductivity finally reaches room temperature." Now, who is this legendary scientist behind this discovery? He is an associate professor at the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, University of Rochester in the United States of America. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this very special interview. We hope you're doing well and staying safe. But this scientist that we are talking about happens to be a graduate from the Department of Physics, Faculty of Science, University of Colombo. Yes, we are talking about Dr. Ranga Dias, and we are proud to welcome you, sir, virtually to the FOSS Media Studios. Sir, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing quite well too, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to talk with you.
Sir, it's been a few days, and you have been interviewed by quite a few people by now. By the way, there was a good interview by yet another graduate from our university, Mr. Ariyavansha, and we'll be linking that video in the comments below too. And maybe you're sick and tired of answering this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Sir, how does it feel to find out something that the scientific community has been searching for over 100 years, and you're the first person? How does it feel, sir?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I didn't believe it when I first saw it, and it was a little bit of a skepticism. When you do this kind of experiment, the first indication of superconductivity is, as complete absence of electrical resistance. So we did observe, that transition, and I was like, okay, this is good, but there are more to do to really, make sure that this is really a superconducting. So first we see the transition, we were like, okay, this is good, but didn't really excite us or anything like that. But then when we start doing the magnetic measurements, magnetic susceptibility and the field dependence of the transition temperature, all sort of other measurements, and when we repeat each and every experiment, then it was like quite evident that, okay, this is going to be something big. And I don't know how to explain the feel. I mean, it was obviously it's a great feeling, but at the same time, given the nature of the scientific research, you had to be careful. So you want to make sure that you understand everything, and you put the exact the right description or the understanding of the material and all those things. One thing was lacking was that this crystal structure of this material. Since it's a light element, have hydrogen, carbon, and sulfur, you can't really do X-ray diffraction. So because of that, we couldn't really give a support of theoretical description why this material behaving. With putting all these things together, it was we didn't really believe it at the first time when we saw it, but then now that we know for sure, it's a great feeling too. I would say it's a humble feeling to be first to find a room temperature superconductor.
It's wonderful, sir. So, sir, your article was published on the Nature magazine on the 14th of October, just 4 days before we are recording this session right now. And by now, many people have interviewed you, and there are multiple YouTube videos and articles out there about this subject. But for the casual viewer who accidentally stumbled upon this video, can we give a brief idea of the importance of this discovery? What does it mean to the scientific world?
Well, I can give it can be twofold. So one is that it's a fundamentally very important discovery in the sense that superconductivity has been there for more than 1911 by French Dutch physicist Carbonaceous. So fundamentally, there was a point that scientists were believing that we really can't get a room temperature superconductor. 40 Kelvin probably be the maximum temperature you can achieve. So there was time that we almost give up, and then all of a sudden a cuprate superconductor showed up in 1986, which got the Nobel Prize in 1987 for that. And then that dies down again, and nothing happened. And then again 2008 iron-based. It was there was sort of we were like no hope, So even the BCS theory was very well established theory. We can't really sometimes find superconducting material. There's one famous physicist called Matthias. Once he told that BCS tells us everything but find us nothing. It was like that. So I would say fundamentally it's a landmark. It's definitely a very important discovery. So that at least we know can be room temperature superconductivity can achieve. And then if we can really make this one as practical material, actual room pressure and room temperature, then there is a lot of technological advantage that we can get from that. Starting from the transmission line and medical imaging, transportation, consumer electronics, all these directions. You can think of the world as we know it probably change dramatically. So in that sense, those two directions fundamentally, same time also as of applicable material, this can be very useful.
Yes. Okay, so before your discovery, the closest that we had come to a room temperature superconductor was, I believe, lanthanum and yttrium hydrides.
Lanthanum superhydride, yes, 200 Kelvin, yes.
So, sir, that's a heavy metal hydride, right? Heavy metal superhydride. But the material that your team has discovered is carbonaceous sulphur hydride. It's made up of carbon, sulfur, and hydrogen. And these are like common elements that we find normally on the Earth. So I'd like to know, sir, what made you think outside the box? Like, what is the reason that made you go in that direction instead of the way that the scientific community was headed at the moment?
Yeah. Okay. So it was very, fundamental, very basic. If you go down in, very basic level, the two criteria that always favor for superconductivity is that strong bonds, light elements. It's like a very, very basic. So to get into the light elements, of course, you're having carbon and sulfur and hydrogen. Those are the lightest element you can get. And then strong bond is if you have a covalent metal, that's a very good candidate for getting to the superconducting states. But the thing is, at ambient pressures, covalent metals are very rare. If you have covalent bond, those are insulators. They're not going to really work as a electron. Can electron conduct? So, but with pressure, it's a magic tool. So you can change the molecular structure such a way that it can get to this right conditions, give rise to this ITC superconductor. I was basically going in this very basic two ideas. Maybe people may have forgot that these are useful. So going back to the fundamental, the drawing board and developing from there. So I thought, okay, this is the best. And in the 2015, there was a discovery from Michael Eremets from Max Planck, which he discovered that hydrogen disulfide can be a superconductor at 200 Kelvin. But then the idea for me is to adding carbon is that the carbon is notorious to make many bonds. It can increase the coordination under pressure and has the right chemical identity. I would say the electronegativity has the correct value to form these bonds and give us a chance to get the covalent metal. So that was the main idea, to add carbon into the system. So I would say it's very simple, even though it's just, something unexpected out of the blue, but I was going to very fundamentals to find it.
That shows the importance of following the basics in science.
That's correct.
Okay, sir. So usually when someone finds something new, there are always critics. Even Einstein had his critics. And while we were researching for this video, we came across several people who had already commented on the negative. Some short-sighted people were like, this is at very high pressures and that is not at ambient pressures and that this is not suitable yet for practical uses at the moment. So I'm sure you have a good answer to give to them, like regarding the future of this development and how we can progress this.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that, sir?
Yes, I think the what we need to look is, with pressure being the tuning parameter, we were able to obtain the room temperature superconductor, which tells you that fundamentally, yes, this is possible. So now, if you really understand the mechanism, what really happening, because so far all these, more than a century, the struggling part in superconductor is we really don't understand. even though we have the BCS model and cuprate, we really don't know what's this pairing mechanism, what is the glue between this pairing of electrons. So that's why we were, preventing us, getting to this level. But now that we found one, what we can do is that we can really get to know what is the mechanism, how this is happening, and then by using that knowledge, gain some insight into this material, we can design something, much lower pressures or ambient pressure. So I would say that, in terms of fundamentally, definitely this will give us a better understanding of the superconducting mechanism, then which will get us a chance to design something at ambient pressure. Also, same time, so this is not the end of the story. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So what we found is just the very area that this is happening. Now much of chemistry can come to play here. That by doing the compositional tuning and the chemical tuning, I was using carbon 1:1, and different ratios of the molar ratio might change the whole structure or the superconducting transition. So there are ways that I can tune this material more, maybe adding another element into the system, or chemical tuning, I would say. I can keep the same pressure, same transition temperature, but much lower pressure, or perhaps ambient pressure. Just to give you an example, to elaborate this a little bit more, diamond. If you take the diamond, I always use this example because it's a famous example that I can give. Most stable form of carbon at higher pressures is diamond, right? So you go to, you find this one underneath the earth and you bring it to the surface, but it doesn't goes back to carbon. Is stable. But now we found a way. The scientists found a way to grow this material. Even though this is a high pressure form, if you find the right substrate, you can grow this one, using the chemical vapor deposition. So in that case, in the material like this, if you find the right substrate, if you distort a little bit this substrate such a way that chemically pre-compress, we probably be able to grow this material even at ambient conditions. So I think there's so much work to be done. And there are so many directions that I can think of that this can be actual practical material. So we're actively working on it now. So hopefully soon we'll be able to get to that point as well.
It's wonderful, sir. All right. So now that we've talked a bit about your research, why don't we talk a bit about you, sir? So we mentioned at the beginning that you are a graduate from our university, from our faculty, from the Department of Physics. Can you tell us a bit about your early years? Specifically, what led you towards science?
That's okay. Good question. So I'm going to start with there's an astronomy club in Sri Lanka. I think nowadays, I don't think it's active now. If you probably you heard about it, Astronomy and Space Study Center, ASSC, and Subodh Institute in Moratuwa. So when I was, I think 10, 11, 12 years at club, it's a Saturday program. And when you go there, there's no age barrier. You will find a student from university first year, second year, and some high school A-level student, O-level. So I was just in the 6th grade, 5th grade, but they all are in the same group, and we are trying to understand astronomy. And there are sessions of physics, astronomy and chemistry. It's like an all overall package, mainly onto the astrophysics. But then that sort of gave me the opportunity to think about these directions. I would say that's my starting point for the scientific curiosity and scientific directions. Is always inspired by the senior members in that society, how they tackle some problems and what kind of directions they went to study some of the topics that they wanted to. Because in Sri Lanka, you always give this mindset that you want to be an engineer or you want to be a doctor. Otherwise, you're not going to have a future, right? That kind of what's the case now? But at least back in my days, that was the case. So, but then because of this astronomy club, it wasn't like that. There were very diverse, broad knowledge that being engineer or doctor may not be the only way to be successful. So I think that led me to get to this direction. That's how I think I end up here. I would definitely give my full credit to that astronomy club.
Wonderful, sir. So you spent your early 20s at the University of Colombo. Do you have any memories of the university life that you hold dear to your heart?
Well, I would say I wasn't a good student, to be honest. I don't know. I didn't like the. I don't know if I should say these things, but I didn't like the lectures. Going into lectures much. Most of the time I skipped the lectures. This is maybe not example for the students who are studying hard. But when exams are close, that's where you start to work, right? I had a couple of good friends who go to every lecture, take good notes and everything. So usually what I do is that you photocopy. Photocopy machine is one of the top very busy place back in days. Everybody want to copy everybody's notes, so I get the notes and study towards the end of the semester or the year. I think I enjoy. I would say I really enjoy being a university student. Didn't really had a lot of weight to you just wanted to study and perform this and that. I had a vision, so what I wanted to do. I want to get to the physics, and then I wanted to go to the higher studies and all those things. I kind of laid out what I needed to do, but I didn't. I would say didn't really try to just only to focus on that. I was doing sports too, getting into this athletics and things like that, and the other activities in the campus. I think I really enjoy being there, but wasn't a very typical student, I would say.
That's all right. Okay, so you mentioned that you had a clear vision for your future, that you wanted to do physics, and that you had the path set, that this is what I'm going to follow. So there are some students who still don't have a clear vision of the future. Like they come to the university with the idea that they're going to study whatever they get, and they're going to get the results and see what they can do from there on. That is, they don't have a plan. So what kind of advice can you give to that group of students to choose the plan, how to have a proper plan?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it's very important, because when you're 20s, you need to really sort of make a plan. Otherwise, even if you make a mistake, there are still have some time to correct it if you think about it early. I would say when you're getting out of your A levels, probably that's where you really need to think about it, where you wanted to go. Either you want to go to university. It doesn't matter which direction you want to go, right? Maths or physics, bio, or maybe not even want to go to campus. But whatever you wanted to do, if you put your mind and heart, focus, and think about the clear path that maybe somebody else has been to, you can get some examples, right? But most of the time, even in our case, we saw senior students how they manage. If let's say somebody wants to go to higher studies, we did see, you get into fourth year, you do well, you do these exams, and then you apply, and we saw all this process, right? And then you saw what are the successful, what kind of directions that you can be successful. I think knowing those kind of things, doing your homework, what are the opportunities is there, and then make a plan as early as possible, probably the best way to go, even before you even get into your second year, because second year you have to do all these special exams, right? So otherwise, you end up with doing something and you're going to go whatever the special degree you're going to select. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Then just because you let's say you're really good at math, I don't know, physics, but you couldn't get into the physics, and maybe you had enough marks to get into chemistry or mathematics, maybe you will end up in doing it, but maybe you're not enjoying it, right? Because it's not the probably what you want to do, or what you like to do, or what's your capabilities. I think knowing what you really want and have a clear idea what that is, and then take a step forward and just go for it and don't look back. That's the way to go for it.
Yes. So as a scientist, you have many important qualities that have been evident throughout what we've seen so far. What kind of qualities do you think someone who's looking to be successful in science should have? What's like the most important quality that you see that a scientist should have?
the curiosity and the drive to get to that, whatever the curiosity you are in. So those two are very important, and not to give up. Scientific research and in being a scientist, it's you fail more than you successful. Finding something successful. To get this experiment, this discovery, we failed many times, many years. We broke many diamonds. Like it was like no hope, and then all of a sudden one experiment worked. Like it's just like that. So, but if you don't have the curiosity, to drive that you needed to go for it, and then it's not going to happen, right? You always wanted to think that I'm right around the corner. I'm this close. You probably be maybe 10 miles away, but in your mind you're going to think that I'm right there. I just need to keep pushing it. I think the curiosity and the drive, the desire to find these things are very important. I've seen the people, some student who came here to study. I've seen that the curiosity part and the drive was not there. Maybe this is getting maybe a little bit sensitive, maybe our education system, because we were drive to do exams, right? How to, this exam, these kind of questions, we're going to do it. But the research is completely different. When you come to it, it's not just something set. There's something you have to be creative, and you have to think out of the box, and you have to be brave to take a decision and go for it. And you have to have this curiosity to think about it, right? Why this is happening, and question anybody who's saying something. I used to question my advisor if he says something. I mean, I wasn't really gonna take it as he was saying it, but I always question. That gives you you understand more and more. And then I had a really high driving force, so I don't know what to call it. I would say the curiosity and the strong drive, the ambition, probably the two key things to be a successful scientist. If you don't have it, don't do it, because you're gonna stop. Not gonna go that far.
All right, sir. So the year 2020 has been a disaster for most of us. Most of us are distraught about the fact that we have to carry out we are stuck in our homes during the best parts of our university lives, right? But sir, you came out of this disastrous year with a groundbreaking discovery. What kind of advice do you have to the dejected, demoralized, and depressed souls that are getting used to this new normal way of learning science and studying?
That's a very important point. Yeah, I think I mentioned this before as well. It's a dark year, right? So we are going through a very tough period as a society in the whole world. But I think if I can use this, whatever this discovery, this get a chance for this young generation like you, or who are going to come into campus, or the studies, if they see, okay, there are ways that somehow we can, there is some light at the end of the tunnel, sort of like there's hope. If somebody can see this and inspired and get more motivated and see that, okay, even with this kind of darker years, there is a hope that we can achieve something. And then if this gives them some hope, I think that's the best I can think of this kind of discovery, and then I'm glad that I'll be able to somehow manage to get this discovery, so people can at least see some positiveness, can keep pushing as a society. They always, we can find a way to get back to top.
All right, sir. So we've been talking for quite some time now. I have one final question for you. So you have made great ground as a young scientist, and with your life experiences, I believe there's at least one good summarized message that you can give to the next generation of young scientists. What's that final summarized message that you can give from your life experiences to the next generation?
Follow your dreams. So follow your dreams always. If you take something, you take a decision and you take that step and don't look back. Go for it. That's the best advice I can give. It's been always, helped me to be successful. Yep.
All right, so thank you, sir, very much for spending some time with us. It is indeed a privilege for me as a third year physics special student to interview you as well. We from First Media and students of the Faculty of Science wish you the very best for the rest of your work.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to talk with you and the tour. Thank you very much.
To all our viewers, we hope you learned a lot from Dr. Ranga Dias. Hope to see you soon in our future videos. But for now, it's goodbye. Stay tuned with First Media for future episodes.